The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement, coming to you live on April Fool's Day. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be bringing you some of the movies we saw this week, in addition to playing a little game show later on. And Andrew, we were talking about this beforehand, but like you said, I'm going to be taking the plug for a streaming service this week, because my movie I watched was on Disney Plus. Please sponsor us. And the movie I saw was Turning Red. So, Mei Lin is your average Asian Canadian child cursed with aggressive helicopter parent syndrome. However, when she wakes up one day as a literal giant red panda, Mei Lin's parents reveal to her family has inherited this ability that she must learn to control in order to be rid of it and not cause a scene. In classic teenager fashion, Mei Lin ignores this and lives a secret life that allows her to explore who she is as a person and what her relationship really is with this ability. So, my thoughts on this movie overall were, this was definitely a very good movie. It definitely wasn't made for me as a white man, and I think that is entirely fine. I think that's that's good.
Or a grown adult.
Well, not even that, because this is definitely the story of an Asian American child living this kind of life. And some of the things I'll talk about later kind of go deeper into that. However, I will say I did relate really a lot to the growing up being a teenager, seeing as how that was me not too long ago. Mm. So I actually see where this is coming from. And I also will admit I liked the time period this was set in. This was set in 2002, which was the time I was growing up and learning about the world. So that was really nice for me, seeing like this world that I knew as a kid being represented on screen in a fashion that honestly stuck through for most of the 2000s, especially with things like all Mei Lin and all her like girlfriends in this movie are really obsessed with this one boy band, Four Town, and of course they're like a trashy boy band, very much your classic 2000s like garbage band. But it was nice to see those kind of touches in there. It really felt like somebody was writing a story from a time they had lived that I was also kind of experiencing. Not what they were going through, but the general vibes of the time, which was cool. I'll also say I really like the style of this movie. It is your classic, it's your Pixar movie, so of course it has 3D animation, but they do take a lot of like almost anime elements and incorporate it into the 3D world. Specifically, the one thing that I noticed quite a lot is that whenever they get really excited, their eyes go big, like anime eye big. They start like sparkling, and it's really fun. It's really fun and playful, and it works in this kind of setting. I love all that stuff. There's definitely a lot of other anime-esque stuff that gets incorporated into the movie, references here and there, whatever. Not the main focus of it, but they were nice touches that I really liked. I think what worked for me the best were the characters. They were all really well fleshed out to the point where some of them definitely felt like people I knew. And they also all had decently good arcs. Mei Lin's a really good example of this. So she essentially starts off this movie as like this quiet, perfect young girl who's trying to live up to her mother's expectations. Her mother is like this aggressive helicopter parent, which from talking with some of my Asian American friends, they had very similar vibes of this growing up as well. This was like a kind of a universal experience of having a parent who's too like into your life and controlling everything you do.
You say helicopter parent. What is that?
It's like a parent who is always over their child, monitoring every single thing they do. A good example of this is early on in the movie, Mei Lin gets kind of obsessed with this boy. It's just kind of like one of those, teenager crush things. And she starts doodling him in her notebook. Mom intrudes, trying to offer her food, which is something I'll get to in a second. And she finds this notebook. And instead of, doing the normal parent doing a normal thing and talking with their child about this, she rushes down to the convenience store where this boy is working and starts, like, harassing him and telling him, leave my daughter alone. What the hell is wrong with you? You're a 17-year-old boy talking to a 13-year-old. Keep in mind, this boy has no idea any of this is happening. He doesn't know this person. He doesn't know Mei Lin at all. And then she puts her drawings right in front of him, being like, is this you? Are you in here? And you're just sitting there like, I want to die. I want to die with her, because this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But you can tell, and I'll get into her Mingli, her mom's like whole deal later on. But she's doing this from a place of love. Like this isn't like what's a word for it? This isn't like she's trying to do it to ruin her daughter's life. She's trying to do her best to raise this kid, but it is clearly too much, and she is the overbearing parent in this situation. So that's where Maylin starts, and then when she gets this ability that allows her to turn into a big red panda, she becomes more adventurous. She really starts exploring who she is as a person. Like, why does she listen to her parents the way she does? Why doesn't she just kind of do her own thing when she thinks she knows what she's doing? And just like trying to become her own person that isn't her mother. Because that's something you can really tell from her early on, is that her mom is almost raising her to be her. Not exactly to live her exact life, but to almost be very similar to her. And that's also something that comes up with Mingli's character later on. But then Maylin gets the chance to actually explore this and kind of really figure out who she is as a person, which is good, because I feel that's kind of where you're at as like an early teen. You're trying to figure out, you're someone who is starting to get introduced to the world of being an adult, but you're still very much a child. So it's like exploring that area, which I liked, and I thought they did a very good job of that. I will also admit, Maylin was entirely like cringy and annoying, like a cringy and annoying teen, which I did get on my nerves a little bit until I realized that's what we all were like when we were like young teenagers. We were all annoying and cringy. We just didn't really realize it. And to a degree, Maylin is really being herself, so I think it ends up being a little more, what's the word? It grows on you a little bit as you watch the movie. So then we get to Mingli, which is the other character I liked a lot, but keep in mind, all the characters were really good in this movie. I just think these two are probably the most important ones to talk about. So, like I said, she's that overbearing parent, but she's really a mother trying to do her best. Like, she just wants to give Maylin everything she could need in the world to succeed. I've also, again, like I said before, this was from talking with some of my friends about this. This is kind of similar to the experiences they had. In particular, there were some moments, like, for instance, I mentioned earlier that in that scene when her mom finds her drawings, she was bringing her food. We see that as a common thing. Her mom's always bringing Maylin food and trying to feed her. And I've heard that's kind of a way for Asian American parents to kind of express their, what's the word? Their love. It's like a common trope. It's like, we bring you food, keep you well fed, sustain, all that good stuff. So we see like her expressing her love through that, and she never is like, I hate my daughter. She's just trying to do her best, but she didn't come from a good background that would give her the ability to succeed and actually let Maylin become her own person. We see this when Ming Li's mother, Maylin's grandmother, comes in, and you see she's like the strict parent that's like, I will beat you if you step out of line kind of vibes. And you can see that's where Ming Li got it from. Like, she didn't have a great role model for this growing up. She's just kind of essentially becoming her mother and working off of what her mother did and how that kind of made her into her own person, and passing that on to Mei Lin. And there's also some generational trauma stuff in there, which I'll get to in a little bit. But this is also one of those moments where it's like you realize, oh, this is another kind of story about generational trauma and people passing on their pain that they've been taking with them onto their children without even realizing it. But throughout the movie, Ming Li kind of starts to realize that, hey, maybe my daughter can kind of succeed on her own, and maybe she can become her own person. Especially considering Ming Li didn't get that opportunity. Maybe it's time to let her do that. And she has her own nice character arc, which I really like. So yeah, I think all of the characters in the movie are really fleshed out, and they feel very real too, which is very nice. Definitely not something I can entirely I can relate to. Like I said, this wasn't my experience, but it felt real in its own way, in its own niche. And then into the generational trauma, I'll touch on it a little bit. It's kind of tied into being the red panda. The family's essentially cursed to turn into the red panda at a certain age. And it's kind of like a response to their emotions. So if they get really emotional, they'll turn into this big red panda and like, depending on the person, either go on a rampage or like kind of take control and do their own thing. And it's something that the family doesn't really take kindly to at this point. They're more so trying to fit in with the American culture. So, you know, turning into a red panda doesn't really help there. So it kind of becomes this curse that they can cure to a degree, but it's more kind of like hiding that part of themselves away. Almost literally, they trap them into like these little jewels that you can see all over various people's bodies. And it's kind of, we kind of see Maylin, like, at first she's kind of with everyone else learning, thinking this is a curse that has afflicted her and it's going to ruin her life, but she slowly kind of figures out, like, hey, maybe this isn't that bad and it's something we need to kind of confront and accept instead of just trying to hide it. And that's what we see her do. We see her explore this, what it's like to be this red panda creature, and see her, like, grow to adapt and, like, make it a part of her. And so we see her accept this as it goes on in the movie. And this is something that everyone starts realizing, hey, maybe we should actually confront and talk about this instead of just trying to hide it and keep it inside ourselves. So that's, I did like how they dealt with that. I thought it was really well handled. And like I said, this definitely wasn't a movie made for me, which is fine. Like, not every movie should be made for everyone. There definitely, what I liked about it a lot was that it was a niche story set in this time. This wasn't like, it's not something everyone's going to relate to. It's not something everyone's going to have experienced. But that's what made it interesting and made it unique and made it something that stuck out a lot. And it made, like I said, it made it a much richer film going experience. So overall, pretty good movie. I definitely recommend seeing it. It's on Disney Plus, so if you have Disney Plus, watch it. You'll definitely have a really good time, like, just learning about these characters, learning about, like, their history, and, like, just embracing this kind of niche movie. So yeah, very good.
Nice. Well, since you took care of the plug this week, I don't have to, because I actually went and saw a movie in the theaters, and it's pretty fresh on my mind because I just got back from it.
Okay.
It is called Infinite Storm, and if you watched last week's episode, which will go up before this episode, you'll know that I was very excited to see this movie because it takes place in my home state, and not a lot of movies get name dropped, or they don't really name drop New Hampshire very often. So I was very excited for that. It's also a, like, mountain climber type of movie where disaster happens and all this other stuff, and I like movies like that for some reason. This movie, though, was not what I expected. I went into this movie thinking it was based on the title, I was thinking it was a couple of characters get stranded on a mountain and they're spending the entire movie trying to get off the mountain, and that's not what happened. First of all, I mean, it's a disaster movie, so I kind of expected it, but the first about 30 minutes of the movie take place on top of Mount Washington, or in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and the entire first 30 minutes almost is comprised of wind into a microphone, and you can barely hear anything else, because all it is, it's just just wind blowing into a microphone is basically all is what's happening. As this woman Pam, she's trying to rescue this guy. So basically, the other thing too is this is a true story. This is a real person, Pam Bales, and the character John, who never revealed his name. She just started calling him John. Is a real person, and it's a real event that happened. So at the beginning of the movie, she's getting ready to go up Mount Washington, and she's talking to one of the guys in town that owns, like, a restaurant or something, and she's getting, like, hot chocolate from him or something, and she goes, or he's like, I don't like you going up there alone. She's like, well, you could come up with me. And he's like, no, I don't do that anymore. I've done that too long. And she's like, well, you know what day it is. And it didn't explain what day it was. Like the entire movie, she just said it was kind of just like a throwaway line, like, "Oh, well, you know what day it is." And I like the whole movie. I'm like, well, what day is it? Like,
No, you're
I
right.
want to
That's
know.
like an entire waste. Like, why would you put that line in there if you're not going to go back to it?
So I was like, well, I want to know what day it is. And so she gets to the parking lot of the trail that she's going to hike on. And 2 hikers come down. They were just camping. And mind you, there's a storm coming. Like everyone, like she's got the news on in the morning. When she was talking to that guy, they were like, hey, there's a storm coming. Just be careful out there. And so these 2 hikers, they were camping, came down off the mountain to leave. And there's a car in the parking lot. And she's like, hey, do you know whose car that is? And they're like, no. She's like, okay. So obviously someone's up there. And she's part of a search and rescue team, which also wasn't explained. I thought she was just hiking to hike. But apparently she's a part of the search and rescue team for that area, which wasn't explained until like halfway through the movie. So she goes up the mountain and she starts seeing like footprints in the snow. And so she starts following the footprints and she looks down and she realizes that they're sneakers. They're sneaker prints. So someone's hiking a mountain in sneakers, which is crazy. Like, why would you do that? You need to have proper equipment to go hiking. And so she ends up like falling into a hole. Like, I don't know how this hole became a hole, but it was like a 12-foot drop into a hole.
Is it that tree hole that's in the trailer for this movie? The one that's
Maybe.
next to the tree?
Yeah, it's next to a tree.
Because that's a thing that happens. Especially, I think that was a pine tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens generally is in places like that on top of mountaintops when they get a lot of snow, pine trees will kind of have like underneath the pine tree won't fill up with snow. There'll just be a giant pocket of air. And if it fills it up close enough, I assume the branches will kind of get covered with snow and make it look like there's ground. So that way when you fall in, you kind of fall in a way where you can't like get back up generally. I know that is a way you can die in the wilderness. So a lot of people don't realize.
Right. So I thought this movie was going to be like that and we were going to be trapped in a hole for the next hour and 20 minutes. Because I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to get trapped in a hole and this is how the movie's going to go, because that's all I figured. But nope, she got out. Like, she got out of the hole. And then she's still going. She's still like hiking up the mountain. And then she sees a figure on one of the ridges of the mountain range, and he's like kind of hunched over, arms crossed, sitting on his feet, and he's just not moving. And he ends up being alive. She gets him to like kind of come to, and he's wearing shorts and sneakers and like a long sleeve like flannel shirt. And it's not really something to joke about because I'll get to it later. But he ends up surviving, and then she dresses him in proper weather gear and she starts bringing him down the mountain. And obviously he's suffering from hypothermia type of symptoms because he's delusional. He's trying to eat snow. He's trying to remove clothes, which is a very common diagnosis for hypothermia, is you're trying to like remove because you think you're hot but you're really not. And so we spend the next about 45 minutes walking down the mountain, and shenanigans happen, and like he falls in a river at one point. The river's not very wide, but it's going very fast, and he falls in the river, and she thinks that she lost him, and she's like super determined to like get him off this mountain. Like, I'm not going to say if it were me, I would have been like, all right, you're on your own. Like, if you're not helping, come on. But, she's very determined to get this person down to get him help, which is an admirable trait. But he ends up falling in this river, and she thinks she lost him, and then she finds him. I don't know how much of the story is exactly true, like from what we see on screen. Like, I don't know if he actually fell in a river. There's at one point where they finally get to the road and a truck drives by. I don't know if that actually happened. It could have. I think that the actual person that was involved was actively involved in the production of this movie. So it could have, because they would have firsthand accounts. Excuse me. But by the end of the movie, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, this is going to be some like M. Night Shyamalan twist, and we're going to go back to the hole in the mountain, and she's going to she's basically going to think this is a dream. That's all I thought this was going to be. Because like she's having hallucinations as she's walking down the mountain because she's freezing. So she's having hallucinations about a pair of what I assumed were her daughters, but you didn't see her daughters at the beginning of the film. So you're like, all right, she's seeing her kids, but they weren't in the original of the movie, so something happened with that. And then come to find out that didn't happen. We didn't get the whole fever dream M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. Nope. I was just the asshole, I guess, thinking that was going to happen. Because that's how I expect movies to go.
Yeah.
But no, it ends up she gets back to the parking lot with this guy, and it's been on screen. She found him at 10, and they got back to their car at like 10 at night. Which is also not how it happened, because I guess they were only up on the mountain for 3 to 4 hours before they got down, but they extended that out a bit, like in the movie for movie sake, which is fine. Like it's movie magic kind of stuff. But they get back down, and she's like, "I'm gonna start my car so you can get warm," and she leans him up against her car. And she goes to get into the driver's side. She goes to start it, and she opens the other door to have him get in. Next thing you know, he's walking towards his own car, gets in it, starts it, and drives away. And you're just like,
so we never find out a motive for why he was
well, you
there?
do.
Okay.
Well, not really, because this person has stayed anonymous for all these years. Like, he never came out with his actual name. He never came out about anything else. He did come out with why he was up on the mountain and stuff, but I was like in my head, and this apparently actually happened, where like he got into his own car and drove off, and it's just like, how did he have his keys? Like, because she changed your clothes. Where were your keys? It's like, because like she had her keys up underneath the tire well, but like he's not going to think about that because he doesn't go up to the mountains very often.
It also feels kind of dissatisfying too, because it's like, is this how it ends? Like,
no, well, it's also not how it ended.
Okay.
So
because it feels like a really disappointing ending, where it's just like, is this it?
In real time, apparently, like in real life, it took him months to actually come out and tell his side of the story, because nobody knew anything about this except for this woman. And then he finally reached out to like her supervisor, the president of her like search and rescue team, and was like, "This is what happened. This is my story." And she got some recognition after that, but in the movie time, it said 5 days later, and it's just like, okay. Well, no, that's not true, because it was like months later, but no, it's like 5 days later, and she's like, and so she was on the news. She had a reporter who came to her house to try to find out the story, and then they actually meet up in this diner in this town that she goes to at the beginning, and he tells her the reason why she's up there is because he lost a loved one up there the year before, and he was going up to kill himself. And that's why he went up in like no climbing gear, sneakers, shorts, all that stuff. And because of her determination to get him off the mountain, he inspired him to want to live, which is a really good story. Like, it just took a while to get there, which is fine. Like, once you figure it out, you're like, oh, okay. And then you actually do figure out that her kids passed because there was a gas leak in her house, and she had the window cracked in her room but not in the kids' room, and they succumbed to their poison gases and stuff. So that was, I also don't know if that's true, because that I didn't see anything or read anything about that. And then at the end of the movie, it says that she, continued to, do search and rescue on Mount Washington until she went out to the more United States national parks and stuff, and she raised 4 kids after that. So I don't know exactly if that's 100% true about her original 2 daughters. It could have been. I don't know, because I didn't see anything about it, but I don't know why they would put that in there, or any other reason. But yeah, the whole thing about the whole story is like they saved each other up on the mountain because he was trying to save her and she was trying to save him. That kind of thing. But it was definitely not the movie I was expecting. I was expecting more of like a natural disaster type of thriller, not really a emotional story about survival.
Yeah, it definitely sounds a lot more intimate than what you originally thought it was going to be.
It was definitely, I mean, we talked last week about how casts of a movie or movie casts of only like 5 people or whatever. This was an hour and 30 minutes of 2 people on a mountain. Yeah, pretty much.
More Revenant than Armageddon.
Right. So, I was kind of expecting more of a thriller action kind of movie, and that's not what I got. Which, I mean, it's Mount Washington in New Hampshire. It's not Everest. But it does get pretty crazy up there. Like winds can get up to like 160, 170 miles per hour. So it was the world record. Mount Washington was actually the world record holder for fastest wind gusts at one point in time, because of how the winds whip around the White Mountains. So, but no, definitely, there was 5 people in the movie theater, including me, when I went and saw it, and it came out Friday. So I'm not sure how it did on the opening weekend, but
probably not
it's
great.
Not terrible. It's not great. But if you like that kind of movie, I would go watch it. So it almost made it made 750,000 opening weekend, which, apparently it's gonna, like, it wasn't available for awards for the Oscars, which the Oscars were this weekend. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it was apparently it can be up for nomination for next year, and a lot of people think that it's going to be. So
no, neat. Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. Who knows? But moving on, let's go to everyone's favorite game show after that intimate discussion, Pilotwings. Okay, so for those who don't know, Pilotwings is a game show where I pitch Andrew 3 show log lines. 2 of them are real shows that were pitched and not potentially made. One of them is something that I made up, and it's up to Andrew to suss out which one is the fake one. So let's get this started. 1. A slightly self-centered female boss at a high-end luxury goods department store who finds her ways challenged when the boss's son comes to town and makes youth and sex the new company focus. 2. What happens when the people you have mourned and buried suddenly appear at your doorstep as if not a day's gone by? The lives of the people of Arcadia are forever changed when their deceased loved ones return. And 3. A soap about the haves and have-nots of California's most seductive region, Venice. The drama will focus on 2 rival families and a forbidden and dangerous romance emerging between them as the 2 families battle for control of Venice. Okay, Andrew, which one do you think is the fake one?
Okay, I know for a fact B is real. Okay. Because I've watched this show. And if it's not this show, then it's another show that is very similar to this. This show, oh no, who did it star? I'm trying to think of who starred in this show. Oh my god. Hang on, I have to find it. So the first one seems like maybe It sounds like a Lifetime show.
Mm-hmm.
They always sound like Lifetime shows.
They always sound like
anything
garbage.
that has to deal with romance or like a man coming in to help the woman's job definitely sounds like a you know, what is it? Lifetime show. Sorry. And this show that I'm thinking of that was B, about loved ones who come back to life, starred Omar Epps.
Mm-hmm.
And I could picture him in my head, but I could not actually get it down. It got 21 episodes.
Okay.
So if this is what it is, I'm very confident. I'm very, very confident that this is what this is. And it was actually not a bad show. I liked the premise. Mm-hmm. But it got 2 seasons, I think, then, or something. But the last one is sticking out to me because the last one about a soap about the haves and have-nots of California's most seductive region, Venice. Mm-hmm. It sounds a lot like the SNL skit, The Californians.
Okay.
With Fred Armisen, mm-hmm. Bill Hader, where they have the goofy Californian accent. They're all blondes.
I don't watch too much SNL, so I wouldn't know.
Okay. Well, it sounds a lot like that. So, and maybe they made a show that was, and that's what it's spoofing or something. But I'm going to go with that one as the not real one.
That one's the fake one. We're locking this in?
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, happy April Fools. None of them were fake. They were all real. All of these movies got made. Happy April Fool's Day.
That's rude.
It is rude. It's also lazy. So
it's very lazy.
All of these got made.
Go A and C. Go A and C first, and I'll tell you what I think B is.
A. Okay, so A is this was made, but it was turned into an ABC made-for-TV movie that only got 1 episode or whatever.
It sounds like an ABC Family type of movie.
Yeah. And then the second one was called West Side. It got a single episode and was canceled.
Oh my god.
It didn't even make it past 1 episode.
Okay, so
which I thought was hilarious.
B is a show called Resurrection.
Yes, that was what it was. 2 seasons.
I knew that. Yeah, 2 seasons, 21 episodes. It wasn't a bad show. Mm-hmm. The initial pilot was about a family who lost their 8-year-old to drowning, and he like returns to their doorstep, and it's really kind of a crazy show. And I only reason why I watched it is because Omar Epps was in it, and Omar Epps was like. This was like right after House ended, I think. Mm-hmm. And like he went off to do something else other than like because House was over. And because I was really into House. So I was like, oh, cool. Omar Epps is going to be in this TV show. This looks interesting. I'll watch it. And I did. And I think I only got through like I didn't even watch the whole show. Like I think I watched like the first season maybe. And then that's it.
That's fair.
It was, cool premise. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten more seasons than most of the TV shows that we go over.
Which is funny because I'm not particularly picky when I'm looking for these shows. It's just that most of the ones I end up on only get like a single season or are canceled immediately.
It got nominated for 2 awards. This show Resurrection, outstanding actor in a drama series for the NAACP awards, which that's highly profiled NAACP. And then Seoul International Drama Awards, which is...
I think that's the Korean...
South Korea, yeah.
Yeah, it's South Korean.
But, so,
Very good. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad I got to have a lazy week where I could just put all 3 on there and I didn't even have to try.
Lame.
Yeah, I know, right? But moving on, let's talk about some of the movies that are being coming out in the coming week, and I don't really have much I want to say on this one.
Let's go! We're finally getting another Marvel movie.
Yeah, you got Morbius, but
Morbius.
I don't really care for much else on here, honestly.
I don't even know what's on here. I'm definitely going to see Morbius this weekend.
Yeah,
because I always go see the Marvel movies opening weekend. It's just what I do. Mm-hmm. I don't really want to go alone either, and like no one else has any openings other than Saturday, so I have to wait like 2 days, which is it's not a good thing for me because I don't like being spoiled.
Fair.
But there's nothing on here. Yeah, I guess there's nothing on here.
Not really interested. In the coming weeks, I'll have stuff I'll be seeing.
Like,
I think,
of course.
I think next week is Sonic. Yes,
Yep.
next week is Sonic. So
And
I'm gonna
Cow.
have movies for the rest of us. And Cow, which is also very exciting. But that probably won't be in theaters, unfortunately. But if it is, I'll see it. But yeah, there's gonna be stuff for me to see after this. But this week, no, it's just kind of
Watch
dead.
that be in theater. No, there's
I would
definitely
be so hyped.
there's definitely something every weekend of April
Yeah.
that I want to see. Oh, there's another.
April's the
there's-
start of the good times.
Hey, there's another Liam Neeson Assassin for
God.
Hire movie coming out at the end of April.
Well, that's something for you to look forward to. Check out again.
It's a remake of a Belgian film.
It's like something I would find on
my
Pilotwings.
Right?
The Belgian format gets one season canceled. Okay, yeah, I don't have much to say, so I'm just gonna move on to the closing.
What the hell?
Oh, what is it?
There's a horror movie coming out at the end of April called Hatching. A young
The
gymnast.
movie?
Yeah,
Like the
there's
book,
a-
I mean?
Oh, I don't know if it's a book. It's a horror
There's
movie.
the book,
Is the book a
Hatchet.
horror movie?
No, the book's about a young.
Or-
Well, kinda. It's about a young boy who gets into a plane crash and has to survive in the wilderness.
No, this is not what that is.
Okay.
A young gymnast who tries desperately to please her demanding mother discovers a strange egg. She hides it and keeps it warm, but when it hatches, what emerges shocks them all.
Weird.
Hatching.
Oh, hatching. I thought you said hatchet.
No, hatching.
Okay.
Like an egg.
Gotcha. Well, maybe that'll. I don't know. There'll probably be something better out that weekend for me to see.
There is not.
Okay, but yeah, well, who knows?
That's the week the
Let's-
Liam Neeson movie's coming out.
Oh gosh, yeah. Let's move into our closing. Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Are you finally giving up?
No, it'll happen eventually, and I'll plug it then.
When it actually happens.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I plug? I don't know. I'll just plug seeing my movie again. Just go see Turning Red. It was pretty good. Solid movie from a wonderful streaming platform that I want sponsored by. And on that note,
we just want one of them.
Just a single sponsor.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll close out here. Thank you for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon,
I'm Andrew.
and we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.